Just first of all, your thoughts on this Bank of England decision from 7 minutes ago.
Well, it's very much as I expected. I did think that the bank would maintain that incremental standard. As you quite rightly said, the MPC have never looked at a 50 basis point move, and to consider going into a historical precedent in a month where there weren't updated macro forecasts included in a quarterly inflation report, I think was always somewhat ambitious. Now, clearly, the external factors in terms of other central banks had amplified market risk that the Bank of England could be a little more forceful. But ultimately, it is still very much a graduated response. And I've just been listening to your debate regarding the impact of inflation versus the growth dynamics. And clearly, I think the Bank of England are very mindful that the growth story is going to prove to be increasingly challenging. And I think that is how we would view it from CIBC. And I think that will certainly temper the reaction function of the Bank of England compared to what the market is anticipating.
Jeremy, tell us the political calculus between the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister with the Governor of the Bank of England as compared to President Biden, Secretary Yellen, and their pressures on Jerome Powell.
Well, clearly, I think from the Bank of England perspective, they cannot influence the fiscal dynamics, but clearly there has been a lot of political pressure on the Prime Minister in order to try and alleviate this cost of living crisis. So we have seen one set of measures at the end of last month, which were worth around 15 billion sterling. So that has provided a little bit of a fiscal impulse. I guess the question is, will the government consider the need for additional policy stimulus before the summer parliamentary recess in July? Because if that is the case, then I think that would amplify the case for 50 basis points come the August MPC. So there is really a sort of an influence in terms of how the fiscal backdrop plays out as to whether the bank will consider it appropriate to hike by 50 basis points. If the government do not put in additional fiscal stimulus between now and the August MPC, then I think it's still most likely that the Bank of England will be looking at 25 rather than 50 basis points at that next meeting. And I think the market, once again, may be rather disappointed.